Welcome to The Boost, conversations with people promoting mental health. And I'm so happy to be here with Gabrielle Juliano Villani, whose name I love to say. It's like poetry, and it's wonderful to talk with you again on The Boost. Thanks for coming on.
I am so excited to be here for round two. And I'm glad you like to say my name because I think it's can be difficult for people. It's a mouthful.
Difficult things are always worth it. And I did probably butcher it a couple times at the beginning. So it's like redemption every time I say it
I
because
love that.
our names are important to us.
Mhm.
What do you feel about your name? Is it, I don't know, you proud of it? Are you like, oh, I wish it was shorter? I don't know.
I love that question because I used to wish it was shorter and I used to get so annoyed. I have this hyphenated name and I have this long first name, and everybody else that I know is like Jessica and Christina. And I have like this long name. And then as I got older, I just got really attached to it because it's unique and it sets me apart, and it's not my married name, and I didn't change my name when I got married, and I'm not going to because I am really attached to it.
Ah, fascinating. I love that. I love that you love your name. I didn't know it was not your married name. I this so I when I was younger, I had similar issues because my name is Turney, which is like it's not common, but it's not like unique either. It's not like Juliana Villani. It's just like Turner, but different. And so people, I would say it, and maybe I didn't say it with enough confidence or pride, and people couldn't hear it. Sometimes I'm actually kind of quiet spoken. So I thought about at one point changing my name to Stephen Fox.
Well, you can keep that on the back burner just in case.
Right? Right? It's like I just want a strong, simple name. So maybe someday I'll do it. And it's like Fox, and I was like, that's perfect. Like that's all I
Mhm.
want.
I mean, it is really annoying when I have to spell my name to people, or like I have to call customer service somewhere and I'm like, Juliano Villani. And they're like, what? And then I have to spell it all out. Then I have to say there's a hyphen and it's V
They're
like
like,
Victor, not B like boy.
they're like, how many people are on this call right now? Just
Yeah,
one name at a time, please.
I mean, people, this is a recent thing I've noticed is uh, I was at a car rental place and somewhere else. They asked for my last name and I was like, Giuliano Villani. And they were like, that's your last name? I'm like, yep, pretty sure I know what it is.
I'm a grown adult. I know my name.
Thank you, though. Thanks for checking.
And I especially know it better than you, total stranger, hearing the word
Yes.
for the first time. He's like, are you sure?
Yeah, I'm like pretty sure. That's definitely not my first name, but thanks for checking.
You always make me laugh. Let's see. Forced segue into Mental Health Month. Humor is so important, in our mental health. It actually is.
It
That's not
is.
where I'm going to go with it. I want to
Okay.
go. I want to just go get your hot take on. You're clinically trained. You work with therapists. You help them solve for burnout. Your retreat to Belize is coming up, and you're working with polyvagal theory, and you're just in the thick of it. So what we wanted to do this month was talk with a few people just like you around the industry who are embedded in it and just open the door for a quick conversation about what's your take on, maybe we can start with clinicians, since you're so well versed in that, but just kind of what's your state of the union if you had to say, this is what clinicians are kind of dealing with. And I know that's broad brushstrokes. I don't feel like, we're trying to generalize too much, but just when you talk to clinicians and therapists, what do you hear them talking about as it relates to their own mental health?
When you had asked me to do this and to do some videos for you guys, I I had like this internal struggle because I feel like what I should talk about is clients and their mental health. And I was like, but what I want to talk about and what I think is really important is clinicians' mental health. And like, obviously both are important, but as a clinician and the issues that I'm seeing, and to answer your question, is like being in the therapy world still, even though I'm not like really practicing one-on-one with therapy clients anymore, constant burnout. I mean, and not just burnout. Well, it is burnout, but I think maybe people don't realize it. Lots of apathy, lots of negativity, and our world has changed a lot. It's become more stressful. We are all like pulled in so many different directions. Insurance payments have not caught up with inflation, and people who are private pay, um, not everybody, but a lot of my private pay clients are kind of struggling to get new folks right now, but they don't want to take insurance because it pays less. And then we have the change healthcare thing, which nobody has really been talking about. And so people are still haven't gotten paid from that cyber attack that happened earlier this year. We have clients who need more care. I think since COVID, we're seeing a lot of higher acuity and things that need more specialization, um, like more significant trauma, OCD, more eating disorders, more isolation, more depression. And it's a lot. It's our world has just changed so much. And I think that people just feel stretched really thin and that there's not enough resources to support therapists to make a good living without running themselves into the ground.
Mm. Yeah, I toured a psychiatric hospital the other day, a phenomenal facility. But like it's easy to talk about what a clinician is working through day to day. I mean, the payment, the health, the health insurance struggle, the weight of the work itself in the room. But I was just struck by the realization, which I always cognitively know, but I don't always feel, of the tremendous number of people dealing with sometimes really serious conditions that people are out there helping. That's the beautiful thing. Is like I
Hmm.
almost can't believe that people put themselves into this lane of work, and there's a spectrum, or there's varying degrees of complexity when it comes to the work, but it's all heavy work. And then
Hmm.
you add on the business side of, a post-COVID tidal wave of patients coming to you with incredibly complex, sometimes never seen before situations in the world that we're trying to unpack for them and ourselves. I mean, I don't know how people do it.
It still blows my mind. And I even, just thinking back to where I started in this field and where I'm at now, I cannot believe the things that I used to do. That I worked in child protective services. I did night duty there. I had a horrifically awful caseload. I mean, nobody has a good caseload in that job, but even the supervisors were like, there's just something about your cases, like they're real tough. And I did. I mean, I like don't want to say it because I don't want to like give anybody secondary trauma, but I had truly like really awful things going on that I just can't believe that that was like my day to day, and that people still do that. And it came kind of full circle too, because I worked in child protective services, but right before that, I worked in victim services. And I worked in a courthouse helping victims of intimate partner violence and
Mhm.
stalking and sex assault file restraining orders. And I actually just spoke at the conference for the place that I used to work. And a lot of the same people were still there. And I was like, how are you guys still doing this all these years later? Like, it's incredible work and it needs to be done, but at what cost for us as the professionals doing it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's beyond compassion fatigue. It's something much more serious. And I mean, I guess philosophically, like there's something to be said for giving yourself away to the work. like you see some people make incredible ripples across the world in a positive way. And, it's because they've given their life to the work fully, regardless of payment. However, like
Hmm.
that's not, that's, that's like a very spiritual path or a very like soul driven path. And we have
Yeah.
to be realistic about, caring for ourselves and getting paid what we're due. And, um, it's complicated. It's even complicated, like outside of mental health.
Hmm.
I was thinking about Uber drivers the other day, and there's no comparison here. But Uber for me, the consumer, is wonderful. Like it's so much better than the taxis. But I think about the drivers. It's like
Hmm.
who is caring for who is caring for these drivers, because even
Yes.
though it's just better for me and millions of people, like we can't just burn people to the ground, or burn them out of their workload at low pay. So I don't know where I'm going with that, except that I see a tension in the mental health field where
Yeah.
it's a struggle to get paid, and it's complicated, and you're doing hard work, and I just feel for people in that spot.
But you have a good point though, because it does trickle to other places. I mean, mental health is something that impacts everybody. And I always think about that too. Actually, anywhere I go, this is probably a problem, but I'm always like worried about these people. Or like I see, there is a brunch place that we always go to where I live. And the server that we always have there, she also works at this other dinner restaurant that I love. And I see her like close and open both places sometimes. And I'm like, that is just so rough. Aren't you tired? Like that's a lot of time on your feet. But it looks different for everybody. And even thinking about secondary trauma, obviously, as a clinician, I'm thinking of it from that perspective. But I also think of people who have secondary trauma that aren't necessarily in this field, like attorneys or the people who process accident claims. Like they have to hear those stories and sit on the phone with people who just got into a car accident, which
Mhm.
that can be super traumatic. And I don't know, maybe they have training on that, but these are the things that I think about all the time.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I do too. And uh, and even people who are like, you would think it wouldn't impact. Uh, I want to talk about suicide for just a minute. So just a heads up to listeners. But there was a professional golfer, 30 years old, last week, who died by suicide.
Mm.
And the reaction I saw online was like, "Oh well, how could it happen to him? Why did that? He has everything." It's like, well, no, it's not. It's like not that simple. It's not like
Yeah.
you have enough money and a successful career and your mental health is great. You know, it's and I don't know his finances. Like you can get upside down really quickly in a very
Hmm.
competitive environment where those people are going after each other week after week, hoping that you lose. That's
Yep.
the environment they live in. So for us to just gloss over a server at a restaurant or a professional athlete and think
Hmm.
like, well, write off their mental health concern. It's practically everybody, and
Yep.
sometimes it gets more severe or more acute. But it's there. It's always there.
And I think, thinking about that golfer you were just talking about too, like you don't know. We put these people on pedestals because we just see what we see online and on social media and on the news, and that makes paints a picture of a certain perspective. But you don't know the ins and outs of what is going on in somebody's head.
Hmm. Talk about let's pivot and talk solutions. I'm not an expert like you are in polyvagal work, but it's something you're experienced in. Is that something you want to talk about for a minute in terms of um, something that people can do or learn from you about, or when you think about resetting the system and these clinicians and how to care for themselves. Where do you take that?
Yeah, I want them to change the name of polyvagal theory because it sounds way too intense.
Do you watch me like have to process that term to make sure I get it right? Because I'm so slow with it.
I mean, when I first heard it, I was like, no, that's not for me. I'm just a little social worker. I don't know what those words mean.
Might
But
be a swear word. I don't know, but I'm not going to say it.
well, we need to call it something else. I'm going to work on that.
Okay.
But if you're listening and you're like, yeah, no idea what that is, it is a theory about our autonomic or automatic nervous system, which controls things automatically, like our breathing, our heart rate, our digestion, and also is responsible for a lot of the physical things that happen in our body too, like releasing adrenaline and cortisol and the stress hormones and things like that. So what your nervous system does is it's responding to your environment and then having those internal physical responses in response to your environment. So, the easiest example that everybody knows is fight or flight. If you've gone into an accident, is a really extreme example, but even if maybe somebody's triggered you and they said something kind of weird, or you like got an email and you were like, what the F is this? And you get mad. That's also a fight or flight response. And when we are stressed, it's normal for us, first of all, to go through all of those reactions and responses. But when you live in a place of stress and anxiety, trauma and turmoil, it puts yourself into those windows of fight, flight, and another one is freeze, where you are not meant to be spending your entire life or a large portion of your life there. And when you do, you have these physical responses. You have cortisol being dumped into your bloodstream. Also, the part of your brain that makes good decisions is not online. So you're not really functioning in a place where you can be rational and have good executive functioning. And so I come at it from this place of we all have a nervous system. And when you become a little bit more aware and practice and understand your body's responses to your environment, you can, I don't know if I should say control is really the right word, but you you acknowledge and you know what you need in those moments to move through them. And that's really the key here, because this goes much deeper than just saying, oh, get a massage or like set some boundaries. But it's really about knowing yourself and what you need to do and what that looks like for you. Because if you don't do those things, that's what leads to inflammation, which can lead to autoimmune disorders and burnout and physical and mental exhaustion and brain fog and all of those things. So that's, I was trying to give like a quick overview as best as I can, but that is why I feel so strongly about this and how I talk about burnout is because I wish somebody had told me this. I didn't know the impact that it was going to have. And I didn't know that all these little moments of frustration and annoyances and trauma, and I could see it happening in the future. Like when I got there, I was like, wow, my fuse is really short and I'm really angry all the time and I hate my life. But I didn't understand the deeper meaning of the how and the why.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's not about controlling the system. It's about, like you said, but it is about being aware that the system is running and
Hmm.
what we can do to care for the system. Is that kind of like a
Yep.
simplified way to do it? Because I know I asked you a gigantic question and I'm like, give us the full answer in 2 minutes.
I did my best. And I know there might be therapists who are listening to this and they're like, you didn't say this, you didn't say that. But
Yeah.
I think that's like the general overview, because I also think I know when I see videos on TikTok and Instagram about nervous system regulation, there is a lot of talk about like you need to be regulated and you need to control it. And it's not about that. It's about acknowledging it and being able to move through those waves and having the awareness of it.
Hmm. Yeah. Fawn is another one, right? The
Yes.
fight, flight. freeze. I see a lot of people in the workplace because our incentives are so aligned with pleasing the people above us, with the work we do. And I see a lot of that, like the inability to have difficult conversations, not because they're weak or not great at work. It's that it feels like their system is ramping up. I've been there where I feel like if I say something, I don't know if I'm going to be accepted or, get a paycheck next week. Like it gets really real when you get your incentives involved and what our bodies do to protect us, a
Yeah.
car accident, but also, beyond setting boundaries, but having hard conversations.
hmm Fawn is, it depends who's talking about it. But fawn can be a blend actually of two places in your nervous system at once, because you're shut down because you can't, you're trying to please and avoid conflict, but you're doing that to keep yourself safe
Mm-hmm.
at the same
Hmm.
time.
Hmm. That's good nuance. Yeah, one of these days I'm going to go to your retreat. Some of the, I mean, it's like Belize in June sounds amazing. And do you have any spots left, or are you sold out? Because you typically
I
sell out.
I am sold out. So I actually just had somebody else sign up last week. I was like, oh, we're probably done because we're like 3 weeks away. But yeah, somebody came on last minute, which I'm totally cool with, and I'm excited. And yeah, we sold out in January, and this one sold out too.
Sweet. That's awesome. Well, I'll need to get on it next time.
Yep.
But thanks for doing this. I'm sorry we have to wrap, but this is kind of like a speed round of the boost. But I'd love to have you on again sometime. And thanks
Yeah.
for everything you do for the industry and the and just the people around you. I think you're providing a lot of care and a lot of insight to people, and I think it really benefits their lives. So,
Well, thank you so much, Steve. And it's right back at you with the Mental Health Marketing Conference and the way that you collaborate and support our community.
thank you. And Andrea, if you're listening, we miss you.
We do. She was just here with me.
Oh, nice. Oh, good. We'll see you here soon. All right. Have a good rest of the day. Thanks again.
Thank you.